Thank you very much. I hope you had a very nice break. The coffee was really, really good.
You can't hear anything.
So we are going to follow up with this agenda that we proposed for the annual conference. Before we start, I have a special greeting from Alessandro Russo, who you know it's our project manager who works for the French Ministry of Interior. He was really eager to be here, and he's responsible for all of this with Arctic, and he couldn't make it because he's suffering from the COVID. So he sends you a really nice greeting from his part. Some of our experts for this roundtable on influencing the innovation uptake through PCP and PPI could not be here in Lisbon today due, unfortunate to travel issues. But we are very lucky to have them as virtually. I hope you can hear me now. Marianne, just to check, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, loud and clear.
Marianne?
I can hear you, but
Nice.
do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Wonderful.
So this roundtable will discuss various aspects of the influence of PCP and PPI. Just don't worry if you don't know those abbreviations. We will come back to them shortly as we're going to have experts on these matters. On the innovation uptake, sharing with us their experience and approach setting up on and conducting successful PCP and PPI procedures when doing innovation procurement. So we're going to have from the NAST project, Sigute Stankeviciute joins us. She's a pioneer expert on innovation procurement at the General Jonas Zemaitis Military Academy of Lithuania. She has been responsible for promoting, evaluating, shaping, and monitoring innovation procurement in Lithuania since 2015. She's a partner, a very active partner of the iProcurement project. We will also have Marie-Christine Bonnamour from the Broad GNSS project, who will be joining us virtually. Marie-Christine is the Secretary General of Public Safety Communication Europe since 2019. She has chaired the procurement committee of the Broadway Pre-Commercial Procurement Project as the chair of the procurement committee of Broad GNSS PCP project. From the shuttle project, I hope we will have Eliani, who is actually traveling currently, and she's facing some problems with the, but we will have, of course, Sophia, who's going to be with us. Eliani is a Supreme Court lawyer, expert in public procurement and innovation procurement in Greece. She has over 20 years of experience on procurement law as senior legal consultant. And also from the Shuttle project, she's here with us in the room. I invite Sophia Berkani. She's the technical coordinator and project manager of Shuttle at the Institut de Recherche Criminelle de la Gendarmerie. She has been working on product development, project management, and engineering for more than 12 years and has an extensive experience in surfaces analysis field. And finally, our chair for this roundtable is Marianne Simovart, who joins us online from the University of Tartu in Estonia. We're innovating in the roundtable. And Marianne is an associate professor at the School of Law, conducting research and lectures on EU public procurement law and national contract law. She is author and co-author of many articles on EU public procurement law. She is also a member of the iProcurement and Steering Committee and leader of several project tasks. So without any further ado, I will let Marianne take the floor. Marianne, I'm here if you need any help, if everything doesn't work very well, but we're very glad you can chair this roundtable. So whenever you're ready, you can go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jorge. It is really a pleasure, and to me it seems very fitting that we have this innovation workshop online in an innovative way, as it should be. So I hope everything goes smoothly, particularly with you on the ground, on the ready as well. So this roundtable does focus on the innovation, and as has been talked about quite a lot this morning already. We hope to put public procurement, especially the cross-border public procurement, into action as the catalyst for more and better innovation. And on the other hand, as if you remember from the presentation of Filomena Vieira, we are aware that the joint cross-border public procurement is presented with many challenges, legal, economic, technical challenges, and that is particularly true in the case of any procurement that contains innovation, of course. These projects are especially complex and therefore need much more attention in way of research and readiness. So it is definitely very good to have good colleagues who already have experience with projects concerning innovation procurement and can lend us a hand and teach everyone who is interested about the challenges particular to innovation procurement. So we have 3 very interesting presentations coming up today. I cannot see Eliani logged in yet. So I believe we will have to begin with the presentation by Sigute Stankeviciute. Sigute, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Just wait a second.
Wonderful. So please, as an introduction, say some words about you and the project, and then we can. We are very ready to listen to your presentations.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, actually, for this wonderful conference. It's pity, of course, that we did not manage to be there in Lisbon, even though I'm sure we all were looking forward to it. I myself have a very interesting background because for 8 years, I worked at the innovation agency. And for almost 4 years, I was dealing with innovation or pre-commercial procurement. And well, when I started my task with innovation procurement in my agency, Lithuania at that moment, according to European Commission, had 0 pre-commercial procurement. We didn't have law, we had nothing. Basically, it was completely empty ground and a lot of things to do. So I together with a few of my colleagues, we created the financial mechanism, we created the laws, we promoted the public procurers basically to try something new, to try the way of procurement which we never heard about, and to try to deal with innovation which we also were not very much familiar with. So this is how within, I think, 4 years, from 0, we managed to have about 30 pre-commercial procurement. It was a lot, and then well, government changed, policy changed, and I had to change my work too. And from working in innovation agency, I started implementing one of the pre-commercial procurement myself at the military academy. So now I have experience on both sides, and the side that promotes and in the side that actually implements pre-commercial procurement. Shall we go on with my presentation, or Marie will say a few words?
Yes, please.
Okay, so about our pre-commercial procurement that we are implementing actually together 2 universities. It is General Jonas Žemaitis Military Academy and Mykolas Romeris University. So it's official public procurers. But unofficially, we also have military in the background, of course, and our law enforcement institutions and intelligence agencies. So it's quite complex, pre-commercial procurement, and there is a reason why. So let's start, and I will give a very short introduction just to understand what we are buying here, what we are doing there. So please, next slide. So innovation, information has very great power. It influences the way people think, and when the society influence, one can rule it very easily. And we all know that the main power in democracy is vested in people. So if someone wants to affect the country, the best way to do it is to affect the people's mind. And in this slide, you can see very famous quotation of Chinese philosopher and warrior Sun Tzu. He said that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. And I know that I'm sure actually that all of you now, since the war in Ukraine, are aware of information warfare or information operations, or how information affects, and that even it was planned to start a war based on fake news made by Russia. But my colleagues, they started the idea of this pre-commercial procurement in 2012, I think, long time ago. And at that moment, nobody really paid so much attention to the power that information has. Now everything is different, and I am glad that we have this pre-commercial procurement at this moment, and we will have the results very soon, because it's about the time. But I'm also very glad that my colleagues started thinking about it, well, almost 10 years ago. Next slide, please. So just before the war of Ukraine, I think a little bit more than a month before the war started, in Lithuania, we have very famous day for our freedom fighters, 13th of January. We always celebrated with lighting a lot of fireplace, wearing not forget me flower here, celebrating at schools, at the offices, everywhere, showing our gratitude and respect for what they did, because of that day, we managed to restore our independence from Soviet Union. Next slide, please. But what happened this year, it was completely nonsense. Instead of everyone celebrating, our colleagues from law enforcement and military noticed that there are a lot of social media posts, a lot of messages in the newspapers, in the various gatherings, asking people to come and to show that the government that they have is not right, that it's the worst government ever, and that they are actually a threat to our democracy, and that our national TV translator is also not showing the truth. So it was a massive scam on the social media everywhere, inviting general audience to come and to protest, because the main reason was why it was COVID restrictions, while there was basically no COVID restrictions, but they used it as an excuse. Next slide, please. And what happened actually, that instead of very nice celebration that we have every single year for so many years now, we have a massive riot at the parliament. It was impossible for the parliament members and the prime minister to talk. It was such a wild crowd. Police had to protect our parliament members and the president and the prime minister. And what happened here, that from the information operations on the social media mainly, the result that we had, it was in real physical space, a riot during our very important day. Next slide, please. So when we analyze the situation, we can talk that there were a lot of different type of manipulation of information. It was deep fake news, it was fake news, it was misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, you name all these slogans. But when we look at the legal regulation of information operations and of information warfare, disinformation is the only type of fake information which has legal consequences. Next slide, please. So there are different regulation in different member states which regulates it. It can be regulated by media law, by electoral law, by criminal law, or in some countries it is still ongoing process. In Lithuania, we have media law regulation, and in quite a few now member states of EU, we have it's enacted as in criminal law means, but that is not enough. Next slide, please. we still have questions, even though we have regulation, we have questions how to deal with it, how to identify new phenomena, how to learn how to work with information operation, how to mitigate the outcomes, how to test if the new tools are good for precise organization, and finally, how to uptake innovation for the public sector, for the military, for the law enforcement, for national intelligence agencies. Next slide, please. So these questions that you just saw on the slide, they were in my colleagues' mind since 2012 or even earlier on. And it was a very long journey while we finally got funding for this pre-commercial procurement. But the idea that they had is to create an AST system or an AST platform or an AST ecosystem. You can call it many ways. For cooperation among practitioners, researchers, and academics, enabling timely problem solving and training for specialists in line with operational practices. Next slide, please. So this idea, well, we identified the first time we got it into their mind, it was 2012. And then it took them 4 years about while they firstly came to me, actually. And well, they heard about pre-commercial procurement and they thought that they will try to get funding for creation of such a system. The PCP mechanism that we had in Lithuania, the EU structural funds. It took about 4 years for them while we finally got funding, and the reason why it was because we have a different system in Lithuania, because it's not enough for the public authority to identify that they have unmet need in the market. It's also our R&D experts and our innovation agency has to approve that it's really R&D needed in order to develop this system. And at the beginning, it was, well, 2014, let's say, our experts, I think they were also not very much aware about information warfare or information operations. Everywhere, everyone was talking about cybersecurity, and they thought that it's just cybersecurity, another cybersecurity project. But finally, we had some communication, some discussions, and finally the project was approved. And it took another few years, but we finally got funding because it was funding for more than 2 million euros. So it's not only that our agency had to approve, but yes, it is R&D that they are going to buy. And yes, it is new on the market and it's really necessary for Lithuania. But also our government had to approve because of the value, more than 1 million. So finally, after long debates and long travel, in 2020, the project started. And we also had some problems in finding the companies and universities who would be interested into creating this product, because we understood that it will be quite different. It will not be cybersecurity, what they all are very well familiar with. And that because it relates with national security issues, so some restrictions applied. And we expect that the final results that we will have will be in 2023. And currently we are in the second stage of our PCP, so in the middle, I think. And we had some challenges, but now I think dealing quite good with that. Next slide, please. Yeah, so basically, I already explained everything in the other slide, yes, so that we started with idea, and it took very long time while that idea finally got into the light and got funding and now is implemented successfully. Next slide, please. Yes, this is the scheme of pre-commercial procurement that from European Commission communication, everyone also is well familiar with this scheme. So we also applied the same scheme because the Lithuanian law requires it, it's compulsory. But we had four companies in the first stage, 3 companies we have now in the second stage, and we will have 2 companies in the last stage of our PCP. And next slide, please. So let's look about how our project will look in 2023. Next slide, please. So basically, in the first stage, well, I'm not sure if you are familiar with these names, but it's mainly Lithuanian companies which already implement our PCP. It's two IT companies, LSS Pro and Tildes Informacinės Technologijos as one team. And then we have our Vytautas Magnus University and consortium with Lianou from Holland. And our third team is Kaunas University of Technology and CERT, the Research Institute from Greece. So even though our pre-commercial procurement is only, well, public authorities are only Lithuanian, but we have international teams which implements our project. Next slide, please. And why this project is so innovative is because we are creating three models, basically. So first model is for information environment assessment. And the objective of this module is to analyze information space or cyberspace and information space, mix of them, and to monitor if the new phenomena in information operation appears towards Lithuania or towards EU. It depends, you can choose the scope. So all the institutions that will be working with this system will have flexibility to choose if they want to monitor only Lithuania, or if they would like to set a target as all EU or Baltic states. So we also believe that this flexibility will help our project soon to grow to at least Baltic states or NATO level. Well, we expect, because Baltic states mainly share the same threat from our neighbors. So this is first module. And then the second module will be lecture, exercise, and training module. We now are calling it Cyber Polygon. And the reason why we needed this is because not only for our companies, which are now implementing this pre-commercial procurement, but also for the new staff which comes to work in this area, it's quite difficult to understand what is really happening. They need more training, and we need more practical training. And there was no such tool for training, at least in Lithuania, we didn't have it. So this tool will help to provide training for law enforcement, for military, for intelligence agencies. And we also plan to integrate it into Mykolas Romeris University and Military Academy just for our students. Different version, but simplified, but still. And then the last module that we have in our pre-commercial procurement is experimentation and testing module. And this is innovation uptake module. It means that because of that module, our law enforcement, military, and intelligence agencies will be able to test new technologies which are on the market or which are being developed by the researchers or in other EU projects, and to decide if it's good, if it works, or if it doesn't work, how to improve it. So this is how NAS looks. It has 3 modules, and we hope it will be run perfectly next year. Next slide, please. So this is shortly about the project. If you are interested, you can contact me or my colleague. We are a very big team working on this project, actually, and I am more than happy to share the results. And we are also more than happy to invite, if you would like, just to monitor the process of how we are developing it, and have some thoughts, maybe how to improve, or maybe to add something additionally to what we are already building. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sigute. Wonderful. That really looks like a very interesting project, and I thank you very much for sharing the actual harsh realities, about the necessity for such projects, and about the hardships in obtaining the financing too, which is part of the reality. Great. So I also would like to remind everyone and encourage to answer our little poll about innovation procurement in the Slido, and to submit questions for the speakers. We will open the discussion and present the questions after all the 3 presentations. And I see there is a question, and there some people have answered our poll, but please feel free, use this opportunity. So the next presenter will be Marie-Christine Bonnamour. She is representing a broad GNSS project, which similarly to iProcureNet is a Horizon 2020 research project. So please.
Thank you. Thank you, and good morning to everybody. I will ask you to share my presentation, if you can. I will just give a word of introduction because I was present last year to the conference of eProcureNet, and at this time I presented the project Broadway, which is also a PCP funded by Horizon 2020. And now I'm going to present Broad GNSS, and maybe that is interesting to understand the picture. In this presentation for Broad GNSS, I will present some obstacles that we are facing and how we try to solve the issue. But maybe in the background, I should say that we started to work on the PCP ideas many years ago with a large group of practitioner public safety organizations. And we had an initial coordination and support action, in fact, a study of 1 year to identify needs and requirements from public safety organization regarding critical communications. And following this year of study with 14 member states organization present, consulting 18 countries during intensive workshops and consultation, we moved to the Broadway PCP, which is a large PCP with 11 buyers from 11 countries. And we couldn't fit in the program of Broadway all that was identified in the preliminary phase. So that's why we run and we propose a Broad GNSS project that is a fact complementary to what we want to achieve, but there was not enough budget in Broadway to tackle these specific elements that are dealing with global navigation satellite system. So that's why we have this this part with Broad GNSS. So today I will only present Broad GNSS, but it's to show, and I think it's also in continuation with what was said before, PCP are a long journey. So you need to know your partners. We are dealing with cross-border procurement, a team of procurers, and sometimes it's very difficult because in PCP, and that is also the intention of a PCP, you are looking for solutions, products that do not exist. So you need to trigger innovation, and sometimes it is difficult. So we can move to the next slide, please. So I will quickly present who we are, Public Safety Communication Europe, because we are not a governmental agency. We are an association, international association. So we come from an old DG Connect project. We are funded since 2009 as an international association under the Belgium law. We are based in Brussels. And our mission is really the continual improvement and evolution of public safety information and communication system. Our institutional membership is organized in 3 communities. Practitioners, we call them practitioner users. So it's a ministry, it's civil protection agencies, it could be NGOs like Red Cross, for example. We've got industry working in the field of public safety communication. So from small companies to big one proposing infrastructure, and to research also organization in this domain. Next one, please. So how we are functioning, our idea is to have a continuous dialogue between the three communities. Practitioner user have problems, they have limitation in their capabilities, so they need to know how they can improve, on how they can find solutions. And also the industry is eager to learn more about the needs of the practitioners. Also the researchers have to have a dialogue with industry, but they want to know and to plan well in advance. So foresight research, what will be the challenges in 5 or 10 years. So we are trying to bring the three communities together, organizing workshop, large conference every year, working on white papers, on elaborating some policies. Next slide, please. For broad GNSS, so as I said, we have been working with member state authorities since 2016 for the study. We have the Broadway project that started in 2018 and will end this year, and we are now in the pilot phase, so the last phase of the PCP. And when we decided to go for broad GNSS, as the budget is very more limited, we decided to take only a limited number of public authorities. So that's why you have only 3 buyers. So Public Safety Communication Europe act as a project coordinator, and we have 3 buyers. We've got the French Ministry of Interior that act as a lead procurer. So referring to the discussion this morning, we are applying to the contract French law. We've got also an authority dealing with critical communication for public safety in Finland as procurer, and the same with Estonia. We've got the State Communication Foundation that is providing critical communication to public safety organization in the country. As the project is very technical, we are supported by a technical expert, OHB, that is based in Austria. And as in the PCP, you have a lot of legal questions and you have a lot of unexpected questions. So we have also the support of a legal team that is working with us on Bird and Bird. Next slide, please. So what is the aim of broad GNSS and what is the goal of the project? So it's really to develop and to deploy GNSS applications, so global navigation satellite system application, synchronization and monitoring of critical mobile broadband communication infrastructure and information assets for PPDR. So as you will see, the budget allocated to the project, and as it is a funded, so at the difference of the first presentation where it is a national project, here we have a specific structure for the funding that is imposed by the frame of the Commission. It means that the full budget is divided in 2 parts with a very strict repartition. You've got 30% of the total budget that goes for the coordination and networking activity. So that means the work of the procurers, and 70% is for the suppliers. So that's why you see that out of the total budget of 3.6 million, there is for the procurement budget 2.1 million. Next slide, please. So the aim of the project is really to procure application solution to enable European Galileo-based solutions. So it's rather technical, but it's mostly dealing with time synchronization and also localization. So time synchronization in the future public safety organization mission critical wireless broadband networks, secure and highly accurate location and navigation information for public safety organizations, secure highly accurate time synchronization also for the use of IoT, so we call it Internet of Public Safety Things, secure and highly accurate location information for the drone fleet management. The aim is also to improve the quality of time synchronizations and also to find an independent, autonomous European technical solution for this. So next slide. So you will see here, we've got the 4 big domains that I mentioned with the drones, the IoT, so the different pillars, and we have different objectives. So we have 9 objectives that have to be met. In a PCP, as we are looking for innovation, we do not define strictly specifications. So we have been working with buyers and the procurers to define exactly what they would like to have. What is the objective that the solution should match? So with this, you have the possibility to have different suppliers that will come with different solutions. Next slide, please. Here it's more in details the budgets that we have for the procurement itself. So you see, as I mentioned, it's around 2 million point 1. Also in the horizon 2020, as it stands now, because that could be changed, but the rule is that the co-funding from the European Commission is 90%, and 10% is co-funding by the buyers. So that is a way also to make sure that the buyer are really interested in the result of the PCP. So it's a kind of showing the motivation for running this PCP and this process. So if we try to divide the budget per phases, because we have 3 phases in a PCP. One is a design phase, the second one is a prototype, and the last one is a pilot. And you have to calculate a number of consortia that you would like to have for each phase. We can indicate a kind of minimal maximum, I cannot read, it's too small, budget for the different participants in each phase. That is the information that we provide, of course, to the suppliers. Next slide, please. So it's next one, yeah. The PCP scheduled. So maybe I will spend some time here to explain how the PCP is run and what you have to do when you have to carry a PCP. So we started the project of Broad GNSS in December 2020. We published a prior information notice in April 2021, and then we run an open market consultation. That means that you need to get from the suppliers what is the state of the art, what is the top level solution that exists on the market. For this, we run a few workshops. We had online questionnaires, and it was quite tricky to get a full picture because, as I said, we are working in 4 pillars with 9 objectives, which make it quite comprehensive and quite demanding for the suppliers to explain where they are, and many of the suppliers cannot provide everything. It means that to bid, they will have to form some teams of suppliers to provide the expertise for all the domains and all the objectives. You can go to the next one, please. And here, so that's where we stand now, and also the next phase. We published the request for tender end of January, early February, and the initial deadline was May 2020. And when we had some events to present the request for tender, so we run a live workshop in Paris at the Ministry of Interior, an online event. we could feel already some question about from the suppliers. So we publish it and we receive no offer, no proposals. We made also an online survey because on our system, we have created a partnering tool to facilitate the creation of consortia. In this partnering tool, we have almost 60 companies that have registered. So we consulted them and to try to understand what were the obstacles for them to engage into the process. And we received different answers. Some answer was that it was too ambitious, that it was above the state of the art, so it would require a lot of innovation, a lot of research, and they were not sure to be able to reach this objective. Some others say that the budget was too small for them. So when you have big companies, and if they have to lead consortia, it's a lot of efforts also of coordination. So for them, the budget was too small, but there is nothing that we can do for this. And some other, for small SMEs, they say, okay, PCP process, it seems to be a very burdensome process, very complicated. And we do not have the capacity to engage in such a process. So what we did, and I'm going to explain the solution, and but I have no final answer to you. But we worked again with the team to refine the request for tender documents. And we republished a revised request for tender in May with a new deadline in September. And if everything goes smoothly, we'll have phase one starting in October with the signature of the contract, the framework contract. So the first phase is really the design phase, so it's rather short. Then we have a call-off among the consortia that have been selected, whether or not they can go and run for the selection in phase two. Then we've got the signature of the contract for phase two, May 23, ending in January 24. And then again, a call-off among the consortia to see who will be the two ones that will go in phase three. So that is something that is really also specific for the PCP, because you have mini competition in between the phases. So it's not only the competition at the beginning, but competition between phases to see which ones will compete for the following phase. So you need first to have successful consortia at the end of each phase to be considered successful, and then they should be invited or not to bid for the next phase. We had this case in Broadway, for example, where we had a situation between some phases that one consortium was not considered eligible to bid for the second, for the following phase. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that is the deadline that we have put for request for tender phase one, and everything that has been to be produced to present a proposal. Next one, please. So the difficulties, I mentioned our problems. I can try to identify some factors. I already mentioned some. For us, I mentioned, for example, in Broadway PCP, what we had before the start of the PCP, a one-year study really dedicated to critical communication. And that was very useful to define precisely the need of the users. And that was not the case with this one. So we had to integrate within the frame of the project a very short period to define also the user needs. So we had less time to organize a very large and extensive consultation. Also, the objective and the budget are strictly defined by the contract of USPA. So USPA stands for the agency that is managing the space program of the EU. And when it is fixed, you cannot do anything to change the objective or to change the budget. So that was written also at a time where we don't know, I mean, exactly how USPAs define all these objectives. And for the first version of the RFT, as I said, we had remarks and feedback after the publication of the RFT and during or after the briefing event on the complexity of the PCP process on the side of the supplier, the budget for them that was not aligned with ambitious objectives, and the objectives themselves that were maybe for some of them far from the state of the art. Next one, please. So how we try to overcome these difficulties. I think that you need to be really proactive and to clearly monitor the reaction of the suppliers. So as I said, when we had the meetings to present the RFT, we did some survey near the one who registered and to try to understand what was their position towards the PCP, so anticipate the reaction. So for us, it was quite clear that we would have difficulties. So we're expecting maybe one bid, but that would not be enough, or no bid at all. So I think since March or April, we have been working again with a team of buyers to modify some of the terms, so not to delay and not to lose time and to delay too much the PCP process, because here the time schedule is embedded in the project that is financed by Horizon 2020. So you cannot extend indefinitely the frame of your project. That is also one constraint, of course, that you have. Next slide, please. So for the solutions, we tried to ease some of the condition. So we facilitate the possibility to have changes in the composition of a consortium. For adding a new subcontractor, adding new partners between phase 1 and phase 2, for example. That is a very useful possibility. You don't need to create or to establish your full team for phase 1 because it's only design, but then you should bring them in phase 2. So trying to facilitate the creation and composition of the consortium. Facilitate also some requirements that we had, because we want, and as you have different solutions that are being prepared in our PCP, we want to have a testing and validation that is run by an impartial and independent subcontractor. And we say, okay, it's not needed for the design phase, so this could be postponed to phase 2, and also it would be possible to have the same subcontractor that would be acting for the different consortia for phase 2 and phase 3. When we had also, so I mentioned that we had these objectives, 9 objectives, and we have a lot of sub-objectives. We modified some requirements. We say, okay, some are not mandatory, but some could be just nice to have in order to also facilitate the possibility for companies to reach this objective and sub-objective. As I said, we have a partnering tool, and we are going also to run a meeting with interested supplier to facilitate the partnering and the tendering process. So organize discussion on the objective and on the sub-objectives among the different suppliers. So try to support them. Next slide. Here it's of course just to show something about the scoring model that we decided to make less demanding. So in fact to lower the bar a bit. So you can see the comparison between our old scoring model and the new scoring model. We deleted completely the one about the technical validation because it's not anymore required in phase 1, and we lower the points just to be sure that we will have sufficient consortia and company to run for this PCP. So next slide. Yes, so if you want information, of course, all the RFT documents are publicly available and downloadable. So you will find the contract notice on TED, RFT download on BroGNSS website, and also some meeting that we could organize. Last one was last week in Paris on the 16th of June, presentation of the revised tendering documents. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this one is next one. So yes, it was just to mention the funding that we have from Horizon 2020 and that we are managed by USPA agency. So that's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Marie-Christine, for sharing the inner workings of this interesting project and educational listening for sure. So the last but definitely not the least, the last but definitely not the least presentation will be about the shuttle project by Sophia, Berkani and Lianou. Please.
Thank you. So, hello everyone, I'm Sophia Berkani. I'm working at the IRCGN, which is the forensic lab of the French Gendarmerie. I'm involved in the shuttle project, which is aiming to develop a new European toolkit for microtrace analysis. In this project, we are partners with the NFI from Netherlands, Chimea from Greece, uptake from Lithuania, PJ, of course, from Portugal, Arctic from France. We do have an invited country, which is Israel. So they have attending the projects through the Israeli police, MOPS, and we also work with the HVA, which is the Amsterdam University. I will give you briefly a preview of the, sorry, it's just, I will give you briefly an introduction of an overview of the project, and then I will try to explain you the why and the how of the project, and I will briefly give you some feedback that we have from the project. So let's start. Basically, as I said, I'm working currently in the forensic lab, so we are more or less working with the CSI people. So we are interested in microtraces. Microtraces is all of the traces that you cannot see by your eyes. In all of the case, they are collected using a tape to collect as much as possible of traces. Then an expert has to scan using the optical microscopy to see which traces is relevant or not. If he can see some relevant traces, he has to isolate the trace to do some further analysis. They have some shortcoming doing that because this process is time consuming. We have a high risk to damage the traces by isolating this. And if we damage the trace, we can risk to miss something. So to avoid that, we need to enhance the current methodology for a better integration in forensic disciplines. We need more objectivity. We need a method less hazardous for the traces. So we thought that we can do something through shuttle. So SHTL is a stand for Scientific High Throughput Unified Toolkit for Trace Analysis by Forensic Laboratories in Europe. It's quite long for a stand, I agree. So it's an 2020 program where 8 forensic laboratories and institutions have teamed up to develop a toolkit which will render more objective and scientific the trace analysis. I have already introduced the partners. How will we plan to do that? So first, by optimizing the tape lifting methods using an optimized tape which can be used directly in the microscope. So like that, we will avoid the contamination. We will have an automated microscope which can do several analyses such as spectrometric colors in several illumination modes. Then we do have an AI which will process an algorithm to identify and classify the different traces that are on the tapes. All of the images will be stored in the database, and we do have in that database pattern recognition procedures to allow us to recognize some similar traces. So the purpose of this project is to create a versatile and powerful toolkit which can improve the methodology in forensics and also improve the exchange between the forensics laboratories. So if you want to know more, we do have a website, and you can see more or less everything that we have done since the beginning. So this was a short overview of the project. I will just give you a quick history of the project. So the project have started in May 2018. So at first we had to define the basics. So to do so, we have to draft everything that it's not really convenient for us and the thing that we want to optimize to improve the functionalities. The key for that was the communication. So we had to develop and to find a common languages. It is not due to the language itself. It's just because we are several countries. We do have several methodologies, several point of view. So we try to have, we try to content everyone. So second step was the open market consultation. So as Marie-Christine said, so we try to attract many tenderers for the project because it was chosen to do a PCP to develop our toolkit. So this was supposed the part of my colleagues from Chimera. I'm not really good with PCP, but I can give you the feedback that I have on the PCP. It was already well described, I think, by Marie-Christine, so I can just go through quickly. We have decided to choose the PCP to develop the toolkit because it was more convenient for all of us, and it was the best way, we think, to proceed, to get the toolkit in the best condition. So then in November 2019, we had the call for tender. We have selected the contractors. So we started the PCP, we have implemented the contract, and the PCP is still ongoing, and we're still talking with everyone, including the contractors now. So thank you, everyone, for your attention, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I really did feel, as I was on the set for the NCIS series, so that was really interesting. Now I would like to consult Jorge about our time schedule. And if you would like to present some questions that we have from viewers.
Yes, of course,
on the
Marianne,
Slido.
thank you. Thank you very much. You are running a little bit late, but it's of course it's worth it because those presentations are really what we are looking for. You know, the real examples of concretizing the innovation procurement. So thank you very much for your presentation. It was really nice. I would like to raise some of the questions that people here have been raised. Let's start with the one about intellectual property rights, a very, I think, tricky issue for PCP. So the question is, can intellectual property rights become a block or a barrier in the PCP or PPI process? So if you want to ask, to answer, sorry, to this question.
Perhaps Sophia or Eliani, you have
Yes, Marianne, I could reply to this question. Sorry for my camera, which is switched off, but due to flight delays, I'm not able to open it. But thank you for the question. It's very interesting. Actually, it was not at all a blocked issue. IPRs were properly and adequately foreseen. We had specific provisions in our tender documents and in the framework agreement. And they were ideal for suppliers because we opted, we as contracting authorities, we opted for not keeping IPRs, and we decided to let the suppliers keep their own IPRs during that arisen during the PCP. And what we gained from this was, first of all, a lower financial offers, because suppliers eventually offered IPRs with different financial estimation, and since they were keeping IPRs, and on the other hand, we had license-free access, and we had also the right to grant free access to any organization that we thought it would be useful for them to use the toolkit. So, and it was not a blocking issue. It was, of course, a very positive aspect of our PCP. And it was, of course, in a very good way provided, foreseen in the tender documentation.
Thank you very much, Lenny, and thank you for joining us. I know you had trouble getting to get connected to the conference, so thank you very much for your big effort. So sorry, I'm going to have to just take one more question before going to the next presentation because we have a very tight schedule for lunch. Yeah. The last question would be, what kind of information about this kind of procedures, PCP or PPI, should a potential supplier apprehend or be aware of in order to increase his chances to win the tender? This question is for everyone. If you had just in few words, what crucial information for suppliers they should know in order to win this kind of calls? Thank you. Sophia, if you want to start.
Yeah. In the case of the shuttle project, we have drafted some specification, and they had to propose a solution based on the specification. So the crucial information that they needed was the specification. They were selected on the proposed solution. So if they comply to all of the specification that we have drafted,
okay. Great.
It's completely fine.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Marie-Christine?
If I, just to add, sorry.
Eleni, go
Yeah, Melanie. Yeah, sorry. Just to add on what Sophia just said, it was important to note that suppliers should know that we are procuring R&D. So R&D services should be at least 50% of the whole solution. This is the first one. And the place of performance, since we in our project it was a Horizon 2020 funded project, the place of performance was an important aspect that suppliers should take into account. And last but not least, they should have at least in their designing phase a good commercialization plan, which should be in the subsequent phases be updated and. Updated. So the commercialization plan of the suppliers is very important for a PCP.
Thank you very much, Eleni. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, from my side, I would say that as it is a tool that is maybe not well known by all suppliers, so it's important to have also good communication. So to present the call for tender, to have partnering events when you have challenges, so to help them. And I saw that for example, for Broadway, we had, I think, around 100 questions. So question and answer, clarifications. Of course, it has to be done. If you are an Horizon 2020 PCP, you have to follow not the directive on procurement, but respect the treaty rules, so equal treatment, transparency. So you have to treat everybody the same way, but you have to support them, because there were a lot of questions about IPR. There were a lot of questions on different aspects of the PCP. So really to have this communication and to try to anticipate and to facilitate also the work on the submission preparation of bids.
Great. Thank you very much, Marie-Christine. And Sigute, do you have a different answer, please?
I think Sigute has a slight technical issue at current.
So Sigute is not with us anymore?
Yes, I think, yes, she has had to log out. If I may comment on the last issue, I actually liked very much Marie-Christine's words in her presentation, which was, PCP is a long journey. And I think that actually sums up all of the experiences, that you have to take your time, be ready to go thoroughly into the project, and be ready for the certain setbacks, if I may. That was my impression.
Thank you very much. We will get back to a survey that we launched just before starting the debate, because we have very interesting results. Unfortunately, I cannot give you the results right now, but we will take that right after the lunch. If you lunch break,
I am very excited to see how many real experts we had in the poll. Because that was one of the questions.
Yeah, I see from my side that I have 15 people who answered the poll. So I expect maybe more people will have answers after lunch. Thank you very much, Marianne. You did an excellent job from distance sharing this debate. It was not easy, I believe that. Thank you, Sophia.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
And Eliani, thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the afternoon. Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to, I'm sorry, I'm just, thank you so much.